Hello, everyone, and welcome to StudyTravel TV Live, a show of news, statistics, and opinion. I'm Bethan Norris, Senior Editor of StudyTravel Magazine.
Hello, everyone. I'm Joshua Walton, Staff Journalist of StudyTravel Magazine. Before we get started, for the best viewing experience, please put the call in side-by-side speaker view. You'll see an icon in the top right corner where you can select the view.
We're delighted to welcome you all today to this episode of StudyTravel TV Live. In today's broadcast, we'll start with a news story, and then we'll be joined by our guest this week, Eimear Harrison, Executive President at Rennert International in the USA, and Marie Claude Saliba, founder of Educom Overseas agency in Lebanon.
If you have any questions for the presenters or guest speakers or comments on the stories, please post them in the chat box and we'll read them out at the end. A big thank you to the sponsor of this episode, Londonist.
So let's take a look at our first story. A survey of 726 agents worldwide conducted in May by global pathway provider Navitas has gathered opinions on visa processing times, ease of applications, acceptance rates and costs, finding that the UK is most favourably viewed on most measures, while Canada is struggling.
Yes, 72% rated the UK's processing times as good or very good, while the next highest was the US on 53%. Some 52% rated the ease of process for the UK as very good, and 20 points higher than the next best, Australia.
60% of agents said that acceptance rates for the UK were very good. However, the one area where the UK was the least favourable was on cost, where it ranked behind Canada, the USA and Australia.
There were some negative perceptions of Canada's visa processing, especially in certain regions. 38% of agents in sub-Saharan Africa and 20% in South Asia rated Canada as poor or very poor on acceptance rates. For processing times, 37% of agents in sub-Saharan Africa and 36% in China rated Canada as poor or very poor.
So at this point, we'd like to introduce our guests, Eimear and Marie Claude. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello. Nice to see you all again after so long. Good to see you, and hello from the trenches in New York of summer, busy summer.
Hello from Lebanon. Also, it is really summer here. It is 32 degrees already.
Okay, thank you. And let's start with you, Marie Claude. You deal primarily with colleges and universities and over a very large spectrum of countries. Students normally rate Canada as their top pick. So would you agree with the African and Chinese agencies that Canada has poor acceptance rates and processing times?
Yes, I agree. They have long processing time. For us, it is 16 weeks. And also many times they are not accepted. They are denied their study permit for reasons you are not coming back to the country, for reasons that really we don't believe the reason. Yes. So I prefer, but Canada, there is a very high demand for Canada now. Very, very high demand.
Okay, and are you having any issues with any other destinations for visa processing?
USA also, they don't have enough staff due to COVID. So also the appointments are very far, and many times also we are getting refusal to USA. I am speaking about F1 visa, not about summer courses. Summer courses are much easier everywhere. We have 100% acceptance rate everywhere for the UK, for USA, for Canada, for summer courses. But I am speaking for long-term study permit. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds good. And which country do you find to be the most straightforward for visas?
Now the UK is good and easy, but it is very expensive. And if no, Europe, France, Italy, Spain are very easy also. It is easy, and it takes around 4 weeks only.
Thank you.
Maximum 2 to 4 weeks. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Eimear, how are things from your side at school in downtown New York? Are you experiencing visa issues in any particular markets?
Yeah, we are indeed. We are, Josh. It's in New York, it's the summertime, so we do have our summer audiences that are non-visa students. They're coming in on the ESTA, which is the 90-day permission. So those students are coming in strong numbers. I think we're seeing, and also speaking to my colleagues, we're seeing fewer ESTAs entrances from Europe. Because I suppose the exchange rate is pretty rough for them, and the cost of living in the US is quite high. And also the ESTA visas, for other countries, but the tourist visas are a big challenge right now. Happily, for some of our major markets, the student visa processing time is quick. For example, for our #1 market, which is Brazil, it was 50 days and it's gone down to 8 days. And that's juxtaposing that with the poor guys who are waiting for tourist visas to come right now. It's, in Sao Paulo, it's a year wait time. And in Rio, it's a year and a half. So, it's really swings and roundabouts. But I think the biggest complaint is, as Marie Claude says, is too few staff. A lot of the markets are, what I'm seeing is, from 70 to 100 calendar days to get their student visas. So I think that's a big challenge for some of our markets. So people are applying in advance. Also visa denials, the US, we've seen quite a number of visa denials of totally eligible, people from Brazil. We've had about 10 in the last month. That's like back in the old days. But we're encouraging students to reapply and giving them, a discount on that, because it is quite expensive to apply and some of them have to travel. So we're saying, go at it again and see what you can do. Some of them have been successful. So it swings and roundabouts, honestly, right at the moment.
Okay, thank you. And Marie Claude, how much do you think does this affect the destination choices of a client? Would a student ever change their mind on hearing the typical processing times and approval rates? Or if a student wanted to travel ASAP, would you strongly recommend the country that you knew had the fastest visa process?
And now a student, sometimes they want to go to USA or they want to go to Canada. So also I tell them to reapply. And sometimes when they reapply, they are successful the second time, because we see if they tell you are not coming back. So we put the ties to the country, family ties, work ties, so that, and sometimes they are successful the second time. And yes, if they are
all right, we lost Marie Claude there.
Yeah, I think I can concur with what she was saying about the second time, because we have seen
this service. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, now it is hard, but people are applying in advance. Students are applying in advance.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. For the US, a lot of the enrollment data that we get relates to F1 visas and intensive long-term students. Rennert deals a little more in the summer school and junior markets. How are things going in those sectors this year, Eimear? In percentage terms of your 2019 summer, for example.
Yeah, so Joshua, actually, Rennert deals with both, because now we're, our sister school is Berkeley College. So we do a bulk of F1 as well as summer, but, summer is, as you mentioned, particularly popular, our plus programs and our teen programs. We've had a surge, we've definitely had a surge in inquiries and fast bookings. A lot of people are booking last minute. And even in Brazil, those who have had student visas before, we're seeing, our #1 are Brazil, Japan. We're seeing a lot of Swedish. We're seeing some of the Italians, and unfortunately the Spanish numbers are quite impacted, and I think that's really a cost of living challenge. And we're getting students from China for summertime, and interestingly, a lot of the students, we decided not to offer our full-blown Summer Plus Teen program in the US this summer due to challenges, with reliability of campuses, because the campuses are just getting back on board, and then also housing providers and staff. So, our trademark at Rennert has really been quality. And as an operations person, I don't want to be landed with, 200 students that are not going to get the best experience of their lives. So we are running a hybrid program, but we've seen good results from that. And we're also have a really great mix of students from different countries. We're seeing France back again, actually, which is nice. A lot of requests, a lot of the travel agents who have been requesting teens, they buy in advance and they ask, for a numbers commitment. But with all the challenges that they've had, actually, some of the teen markets have been asking us, well, can you run a student visa version of the teen program? Because the teen programs usually run with a teaching load of about under 18 hours per week. So that has been a change. And all of those things we can accommodate. But the reason why we didn't do our campus program this summer was that, with teacher shortages and staffing, and, we want to offer people a good time. So we'll be back in full swing next year. As long as we can run programs that the market's requesting, if it's in Brazil that we have to offer student visas to the teens, that's what we'll do, instead of them having to wait a year for their dream to come true in New York.
Okay, thank you. And let's take a look at another story now. Next up, we have some agency data from Argentina, which shows some recovery for the outbound market there in the early part of this year. The survey, completed by the 20 members of the Argentine Study Abroad Association, ARSA, found that around 62% of the agencies experienced an increase in language bookings compared to the first 4 months of 2022. No agencies reported a decline, and almost a fifth said business had almost doubled.
It was a similar picture in other sectors such as secondary, tertiary, study and work, and volunteering, where respondents indicated that bookings were the same or higher. 57% thought that revenue in 2022-23 would be higher than for 2018-19.
ARSA President Gabby Ardito advised that the UK remained the top destination for member agencies, but post-pandemic, the USA has risen to second alongside Australia, while New Zealand, which has not yet fully resumed visa processing, has slipped down. Some agencies have also started to promote Argentina itself as a destination.
The biggest challenges cited by agencies in the survey were sending payments abroad, the local economy, the cost of airfares, and visa refusals.
So, Eimear, we have had Cheryl Delk-Lagood of English USA on the show a couple of times, and we know that English USA has been collaborating with the agency associations of Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico. How are these markets for you currently, and has that collaboration made a difference, do you think?
Yeah, I certainly think, I know Cheryl pretty well, and I certainly think with Colombia, it's made a big difference. The number of inquiries that, we've had at Rennert is certainly up. It's quite far up on previous years, and, they're a strong nationality. Speaking to some of the other schools in our sector, though, who had traditionally strong audiences from the Colombian market, they're seeing Colombian numbers down, and I think that's related to cost of living expenses in New York, and also, for students who maybe don't have family here, a big challenge in housing, because housing has really presented a challenge in terms of expense for students coming to New York. But for Rennert, we have definitely received more Colombian students. I would say, it would go in the order of Brazil. Brazil's our #1 market. We've always had a strong footprint in Brazil, and stronger than ever. Colombia would be #2, Mexico, and then Argentina. I have to say that, despite the efforts of English USA and whatnot, I think Argentina continues to see New York as an extremely expensive destination. And speaking to my colleagues, they haven't seen any uptick. We do know some wholesalers from Argentina, and they're coming into the New York area. But regarding students coming to study in programs, they are hopeful. We haven't got to the point where they're delivering yet. So we have been talking to some Argentinian partners about programs, but usually, the discounts that they would be seeking for a program don't make sense for New York providers with all that encompasses. So that's the insight that I can offer there. Yeah.
Thanks. And Marie Claude, do you think agencies in Lebanon would report similar positive increases in bookings across the board?
Yes, this year we have demand for the G1 visa for the work and travel program and for the internship. But now usually it must we must have more students, but because of the cost and because of the economic situation also, so less student register for this kind of for the work and travel program. And this also it is much easier to have an appointment with the embassy for this kind of program and for the F1 visa than for the tourist visa. The tourist visa, the first appointment available is maybe in March 2023. Really, it's very hard to have
Ay caramba.
one B2 visa.
Wow.
For USA. But,
yeah.
And the number one is USA for the work and travel.
So maybe we can get some interns down to those offices. That's what I said. What can we do to process tourist visas faster in the USA? It's really frustrating. I said, do you need interns down in Brazil?
Okay, Eimear, Arthur mentioned some of the challenges that agencies face. I gather that language schools in New York have been hit with extra regulatory burdens by the local government. What can you tell us about that?
Oh, you can always rely on good old New York State to, you know, we're one of the most regulated states in the union, followed by California. And we do have an excellent relationship with New York State Education Department, but they have a division that oversees career schools and ESL schools. And, you know, they just want to make their lives easier. So what they did, they implemented a regulation that forces all ESL schools to go through a full financial audit on an annual basis, which not even our accreditors require, and if they do, they require much less. And they passed this regulation at a time when it was right during the pandemic, and I think it was March, or it passed in maybe in September 2020, and we had no clue about it. And so it's an extra burden at a time when schools were already struggling and trying to, you know, get back with their staff, reach out to their markets, and over-regulation has just murdered us. It's put up the cost of running a school in New York with all of those implied expenses. And then there's all the markers. And auditing is traditionally for companies where you have shareholders or, you know, where there's an external, you know, government where you receive funds from the government. So ESL schools are really, can I say, pissed about it. And, you know, but we had to fall into line because the regulation was already in place. We did, as our dear Matt at StudyTravel knows, we did try to go out and battle the state a little bit, as feisty New York has been known to do in the past and been successful. But they just told us, look, it's a done deal, you know. So when we're stronger and when we prove, because really it's based on schools going out of business, and any school that's gone out of business in New York over the last 20 years, they have a tuition reimbursement fund. Students are protected. So if any of you send your students and a school closes in New York, students are protected. We pay money to that tuition reimbursement fund. And, you know, other schools have even after September 11th, all schools rallied around the other schools that are closed. You know, we took St. Giles students. And so the ESL, you know, group of schools, New York English Schools Association, is really tight and strong. And we're hoping to be able to change that. But those are our, you know, that's our inside stuff. We're still doing our best on the front lines, despite all of our, you know, that stuff going on in the background. And I talked to my colleagues in New York English Schools Association, and we're just getting on with it as we usually do.
Thank you. Let's move on to the next story. Brazil headquartered agency group IE Intercambio has launched a new work experience Portugal program that will feature 6 months of paid work in Portugal's hospitality sector.
IE is working with a major hotel group in Portugal to operate the course, and will hold recruitment events in Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo at the beginning of next year.
In 2019, the year before the COVID-19 pandemic, the work and travel and volunteering segment accounted for 5% of business in StudyTravel Magazine's annual global agency survey. Last year, this was down to only 2%. Marie Claude, I gather that your agency works quite extensively in these sectors. Is there a recovery this year? And which destinations are popular for work experience, internships and volunteering?
Yes, this year there is a good recovery, and everybody is asking for USA. For volunteering, no, they like South Africa, India, but most of them South Africa.
Okay, thank you. And Eimear, is that a sector that language providers in the USA can get involved with? You offer an internship program, I believe. How is that going, and what markets is it popular with?
Actually, we do, and New York has been offering internship programs for the longest time. We started those programs in the market, and we have a very strong relationship with companies. So it's interesting you should ask about that, because that has been really an out of the gate explosion. So we were even placing students back in 2021. We were getting requests, and it was a challenge coming out of the pandemic, because there were lots of companies that were interested in having interns, but they were all online, and the city was still pretty much shut down. But we have a very diligent and experienced internship department, and we went forward for reforging those relationships, getting new relationships. And the internship, students who are coming to New York right now, they really want more. We're seeing an increase in our plus programs, English for Dance, arts programs, and the internship has been one. And, it's really great, because students coming after the pandemic are, they're putting themselves out there. They've been shuttered down, and they want to explode and change their lives and pick themselves up and put themselves back into the workforce again with something different to offer. So the internship program has been really great. We offer two programs. One is like short on the ESTA, and then we offer a longer term one on the student visa, where they take business English. And those have been great. It's the markets that have been interested in that. We have our German market, Swedish market. We have now new interest. I think Japan is really, dancing around the rim of that, wanting to throw themselves in there. They're getting out there much more. Their English language trajectory takes a bit longer, but, we vet students before they arrive, and we start to try and match them. And we've had students who have had really phenomenal experiences. It's so heartening to hear, they really feel like a New Yorker when they're here, and it's a way for them in any market that they go to feel more quickly assimilated and part of the general population. And I think that's something that, but especially in New York, that experience is irreplaceable. I think for New York internships, it's something that is really special. And, the city's as vibrant as ever now. So, students are diving in and being brave.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us up to date with all the stories this week. At this point, we'll open up to the audience to see if there are any questions for our guests or for the StudyTravel team. These could be on any of the stories or topics we've discussed.
Okay, I don't see any questions, but I've got a quick question for both of you. What do you think has changed the most in the post-COVID era, and are these changes likely to be permanent, do you think? Marie Claude, do you want to go first?
People now are eager to travel again, and the recovery is very quick, I think, and everybody wants to travel again, because for 2 years everybody stay in their country and at home. I think the recovery will be very quick. I think so. Only maybe the economic situation and the inflation will maybe stop some student if they can't afford to study abroad or something like this.
Okay, and Eimear, the same question. What do you think has changed since the sort of pre-pandemic? Is there anything that you think will be there to stay?
Well, I mean, I think the most obvious one is the flexibility of the, being able to offer online and in-person classes. I think that's the biggest change, I would say. The happiest change is to know that there is no replacement for in-person learning, because culture is, I mean, you learn a language is culture. And without the culture, you're not going to learn as quickly. You're just not going to have the same experience and the desires that motivate students who come in person. But the flexibility, for example, of an executive, we have professional English programs where they can come and then continue with their teacher afterwards. And it's, not just a program, it's, something where they've made a connection that they can continue. And the last thing I want to say, I think I concur with Marie Claude. We are not sure what next year is going to bring with the inflationary increases. That's and Andrew was talking about that on a former STV Live. That's a big concern. There's discussion about price increases right now, and there's been a lot of discounting, so people are worried about moving away from the discounting model and actually back to being viable, because we saw schools go out of business, and we all have to realize we're all businesses and we have to be viable. So it's that balance. But the fact that our industry is still here, that I'm talking to you with full classrooms in the summertime, and we're all still excited and have more energy than ever to be creative. We thought we weren't sure we would make it. So the fact that we're all here and talking about this is ace. I love it.
Thank you. Well, it's good to see you. So it looks like that's the end of our audience Q&A, which brings us to the end of this week's StudyTravel TV Live.
We're taking a short summer break, so our next episode will be on Wednesday, 10th of August at the same time of 4 p.m. BST. Visit the StudyTravel TV Live page on StudyTravel Network, which you can find under the magazine section in the menu, just on the screen there, where we'll be announcing the guest speakers for the next broadcast, as well as a recording of this episode and past episodes.
So that's it for today. We'd like to say a big thank you to our special guests. Eimear, thank you for your time and insights today.
Thank you. Happy summer, everybody, and see you all in the fall. Yes, I can't wait.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for everything. Thank you.
Marie Claude, thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts. We look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay.
And thank you.
Thank you all at
STV
Live for doing wonderful shows.
For hosting
thank you
us.
to our
Thank you.
sponsor this week. Just get a quick mention of our sponsor, Londonist. And thanks to everyone for watching. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Bye-bye. Thank you.